The Jews from Arab lands have become part of many different nations and cultures. Here in Britain, in particular, their stories aren't well known. They have their own communities. The Jews of Aden have a community, the Jews of Yemen have a community, Jews of Bahrain have a community, Jews of Iraq, Jews of Egypt, Jews of Morocco. The more that British Jews can understand that this is an integral part of the British Jewish story. Just as my grandparents came from Russian Poland, so my neighbor's grandparents came from Baghdad or Casablanca or Sanaa, and this story needs to be not just told, but needs to be recorded and needs to be available.
I am an Iranian Jew born in Iran, in Isfahan.
My family is an Ottoman family, and my parents themselves were both born in Egypt, but none of their parents were.
In summer, we used to go to sleep on the roof. So we had two sets of beds, one set in the room and one set for the roof. And on the roof, every morning, the maid goes and cover the bed because it's sunny, it's so hot. So the beds were all covered. And then in the evening, when after the sunset, she goes to the roof, she opens all the bed, and and it's so beautiful to sleep on the roof. It's so cool, so nice, and to look at the stars. It's really, I miss sleeping on the roof.
When I woke up, in these very early years, my nanny used quickly to take me away so that I wouldn't wake my younger sister, who was a baby, up, or the rest of the family, who lived in another sort of wing, and took me to my grandmother because she woke up very early. And she would be sitting on a balcony which overlooked the Nile. Her servants, I think she was called Miriam, would make a very strong, sweet Turkish coffee, and she would be smoking ceaselessly these scented Turkish cigarettes, and she would pour some of the coffee on the saucer and give it to me to lick. So I've always loved that. And we would look, and my memory, with the smell of the cigarette and the coffee, and looking across the Nile, because that was in front of us. And in the early morning of the dawn, there is a mist above it, where you can only see the palm trees. And this is my vision of my early childhood, is to remember.
I went to a school, Alliance Israelienne in Baghdad, Laura Kaduri. I made the primary school there. Then I went back to study in state school because I wanted to get into University of Medicine to become a pharmacist, really, because my granddad, from my mother's side, he was one of the first chemists who went to Istanbul with his brother, and he opened his first pharmacy in Baghdad.
I went to the English school, Cairo. Before that, I had gone to the Gezira Preparatory School in Zamalek, and these were not Jewish schools. So my friends were everything. I had English friends who were themselves divided up between their numerous English Protestant religions. There were Catholics, there were Syrian Christians, there were Greek Catholics, there were 2 Chinese boys who claimed to have no religion. There was a Russian girl, Yashina, who was Russian Orthodox. There were Muslims. And they were all my friends, and they were all invited to my bar mitzvah.
So we had a very cosmopolitan life, because in Morocco you had Italians, French, Portuguese, English, not all in the same quantity, obviously the French.
Yes, as far as social activities in Iraq were very well advanced. 3 clubs. One was the Zawra, the other one was the Laura Kaduri club, and the third one was the Rafidin club.
In Baghdad, the only thing I remember, the Farhud. I was about 11 years old. I still remember every single details about it, because we had to leave the house and we went to stay with our aunt. And then they have got a very large house and garden, and they were as rich, and and lots of Arabs came to. They wanted to, to kill the Jews, but their neighbor wouldn't let them pass. He had a revolver and he started to shoot, and they went out. They went away. We stayed there about 3-4 days, and while we are there, when those Arabs came to kill the Jews, we crossed the road to their friends, Muslim friends, and they protected us. We stayed there 3-4 days, and then everything was quiet, and we went back home.
The change really took place in 1947. It became a hostility towards the English first, as Egypt wanted its independence. And then this spread as a hostility against Europeans. And there were actually attacks on Europeans, and we were instructed that if you were caught in the street by a riot or something, immediately say, "I'm Greek, I'm Greek," because the hostility towards the Greeks only came later.
I worked in Baghdad for 22 years. From the date I finished my secondary school, because I couldn't get into College of Pharmacy because it was after the independence of Israel. And the minister in the Ministry of Health told my father, as well as the dean of the Faculty of Medicine at the time, they told him that we are not going to accept any Jew. Tell your daughter and all other Jews that we have an order. We are not going to accept any Jew in university.
After 1963, things were bad, and they stopped giving us the passport. We were not allowed to leave. After 1963, we were not allowed to leave the country. For 10 years, we couldn't leave the country. people started going illegally through the north, and they go to Iran, and from Iran they go to Israel.
I went to passport office to get my passport, and the officer at the passport office told me that you are blacklisted. You cannot go. Apparently, it was another David Aaron which have a problem, and they blacklist him. The officer say, okay, I can guarantee that you are not the same person. He never knew me. He never saw me. He never, honestly, even now I'm telling you, I still shivering that he could come like an angel, honestly. And I told him, at the end he came and he guaranteed I'm not that David Aaron, this is another David Aaron. And they gave me my passport immediately. And I left the country after 2 days. And after 3 days, the war happened and all the border was closed.
When we left, as I told you, my husband was in prison the second time, the first time all of us. And we didn't know if we will arrive safely or not, if they will let us leave.
The day before we left, we slept with friends, very good friends. We took our suitcases and went there because we had to close the house, to give the house. And we slept there. And from there, a driver came and took us to the airport. Yeah, it was like a dream. I didn't feel that really we are not coming back.
We left, we came direct to London. My son was in the airport, and I didn't know where he is. I couldn't see him. Sorry. I saw him the last time. He was 14 years old. Now he is 23 years old. And, sorry. And my son, the other one, told me, oh, Mom, he is there. So I saw him, after he left at the age of 12, apart from he came for his bar mitzvah when he was 13. And then he left, and we couldn't see him.
We left the country 3 months, and we lost our nationality. And then we were stateless. Here we got stateless papers, from the Jewish agency. They arranged for us. And then it took a few years to apply, because first of all we have to, stay here 5 years, and then we had to apply, and it took another year till we got it. So yeah, it was in the 80s, mid-80s that we were British.
I am proud to be Moroccan. I'm proud to be having a British passport. I'm very proud to have a totally French education. And above all, I'm proud to be Jewish. Because to be Jewish, it's a hell of responsibility.
Of course, home is sweet home, but we had halfway of, we lived in Baghdad, but of course our home now is in England. Because to have bad experience from your own country, you wouldn't be able to think going back home.
Definitely I'm not a British. But how can I deny that I'm an Iraqi? I didn't go there as an immigrant. I've been there for 3,000 years.
I feel more at home in England now, then certainly I did when I came. But this is not because I changed and became more British, but because Britain became more foreign.
Don't be ever ashamed of your origin, whatever it is, humble, wealthy, what sort. You are part of a history. You are part of something, even infinitesimal. You are part of something which somebody else can learn from it.